So what's happened, everybody? I just saw this one Instagram video on one of my main hip hop producers that I follow called The Real Pete Rock, and it showed this video of this one guy who was in the Dave Chappelle protests because a lot of people say that Dave Chappelle is transphobic because of this recent comedy special he did. I checked it out myself. It was pretty provocative and it had a lot of substantial points, but I wouldn't say it was all that offensive. And then these people try to go ahead and go outside of the Netflix office and protesting against Dave Chappelle. And this one guy shows up and says, "We like Dave." And what they do to the guy is they take the sign, his sign, they tear it down, smash in the floor, and the guy says, "What happened to freedom of speech? I can't say anything anymore." And then they accuse the dude of the fact that he has not a sign, but a giant stick for his picket sign. He says, "He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon." And then he tries saying, "All I'm trying to say is that jokes are funny and blah, blah, blah." And then this one woman comes on and says, "Repent, motherfucker. Repent, motherfucker." I was saying, we are living in a ridiculously overly sensitive, politically correct, and soft society now. It is coming to a point in which this is what I think, man. We cannot say anything anymore without offending a certain group of people now. Dave Chappelle, yeah, he made some jokes about transgender people, but he wasn't necessarily trying to hurt them. I mean, and besides, Dave Chappelle makes fun of everyone. He makes fun of white people. He even makes fun of black people. He makes fun of Hispanics. I mean, it really just goes to show me that if the Chappelle show came back on the air nowadays, it would have been canceled just like that. Because we are living in a culture in which people cannot take a fucking joke anymore. Our society is way too fucking soft and overly sensitive towards everything. And it just goes to show you that freedom of speech is dying now because any type of speech can be offensive in this day and age. And I think it's going to come to a point, if this goes further than that, we are going to live in an overly sterile and soft and pussified society. It comes to show you that people nowadays have no backbone and cannot handle being made fun of whatsoever. I mean, for me personally, I thought Dave Chappelle was a pretty provocative comedian, but he's not the most offensive comedian I ever heard. You know, there are far worse comedians that I've seen beforehand. Like some of a comedian that was more old school that I'm pretty sure would have been a bit of an influence on Dave Chappelle was this guy named Rudy Ray Moore. He actually made a movie on Netflix called Dolomite Is My Name about Rudy Ray Moore's life. He was the most raunchy and dirty comedian I've ever heard in my life. Like, here's an example of a joke that I heard from Rudy Ray Moore. And it goes like this. There was a man and a woman that were going to have sex with each other. And the man was naked in the bedroom and the woman is lying down on the bed. That's not exactly how he said it, but this is how it goes. He says, "Honey, if I have my nuts hanging on the wall, what would you call those?" And she said, "Well, of course I would call them walnuts." And then he goes up on her and says, "Now, if I have nuts hang on your chest, what would you call those?" "Well, those would be called chestnuts." And then the man says, "Well, if I have my nuts on your chin, what would you call those?" And she said, "Well, will those be called chin nuts?" And then the man says, "Nah, bitch, then you have a dick in your mouth." Jokes like that would not really be able to fly nowadays. You know, freedom of speech is dying, man. It's not good. Our country was founded on freedom of speech. And there used to be a time years ago in which young people protested against the older generation because they want more freedom of speech. Now we're seeing on college campuses with speakers like Jordan Peterson, who speaks a lot of the truth. I've seen a lot of his good stuff, and he says a lot of things that people should talk about but don't want to talk about. Young college kids are protesting against him, and people are protesting against them because this is what I think. People nowadays, they want to live in a small little fantasy world of gumdrops and rainbows and unicorns. They don't want to be offended, they don't want to be provoked, and they want to live sterile, bubble wrapped lives. And anything that threatens them, they are willing to attack. It's funny how they say that they consider themselves to be tolerant, but they're intolerant, especially towards those who don't view the opinions the same way. You know, these leftist, progressive protesters and social groups are actually some of the most intolerant people that you'll ever come across. As I seen in this one video on Instagram of this guy who says he likes Dave Chappelle and he gets his picket sign dismantled and he is considered to be an enemy. And I don't know what might happen in the future because of this. But all I can say is that fuck those people who went ahead and did that to that one guy. And fuck you if you can't take a joke, man. Grow a fucking backbone and grow some fucking balls and quit being a bunch of fucking crybabies. Okay? It's coming to a point now in which the average person in America, in the modern Western world nowadays, in my opinion, is a fucking crybaby that wants to complain about everything. Grow a fucking pair of balls, man. We'll see how this whole thing goes, but this cancel culture thing is getting totally out of control. You know, people can't take a joke. People are easily offended nowadays. They want to live lives in which they're not provoked. And it's just, life is not that way. Okay? This is what comedians do. Comedians are those that relay the truth about the world in a funny and provocative sort of way that's meant to push your buttons. Okay? True art is meant to push your buttons. True art is meant to challenge you. It's not meant to be safe. Okay? And we live in a culture nowadays which everyone wants to be safe. Everyone wants to be not provoked. But when we live in a society like that, it's only doomed to fall apart. Okay? It's doomed to become sterile. It's doomed to become soft and pathetic and weak. All right? And that's what we see nowadays. A bunch of soft, weak-minded, and cowardly sheeple who cannot handle being provoked and they cannot handle the truth. I think Chappelle speaks a lot of the truth. He's not my number one favorite comedian, but I think a lot of what he says is in fact the truth. And he says in the end of the video, don't be talking down on my people. You know? I mean, he is a feminist in a way, but in a more irrational way. But the intolerant left wants to go after anyone who says anything about them. All right? I hope what this goes to show for other people is that we don't need to support this sort of mentality. This needs to be stamped out, and it's a cancer to our society, especially to freedom of speech. All right? All right. Well, we'll have to see how this whole thing goes and how it all goes down. Support Dave Chappelle, support freedom of speech, and support the truth. And fuck all you pussies. So, I'm out for the day. I'm about to go to my new job. We'll see how that goes. Wish me all luck. Support real provocative art. And down to the leftists, down to the progressives, and all you pussies out there. Peace out. Fuck you leftists and your progressives. Goodbye. Have a nice day.